how do so there's no is there no chance for parole or very little chance for parole for people in Illinois? Explain that a little bit because I don't think people understand that. And
Sure,
then I want to talk
sure,
about the changes for sentencing credits.
sure. Yeah, this is exciting. So, sentencing is one thing, and then post sentencing, we call it meaningful opportunities for release. So, in some states, there are robust parole systems where you can go before a parole board. The parole board can let you out early and on some kind of supervision in some cases, in other cases, not. Other mechanisms to get people out early are we call it good time, earned sentencing credits. So we'll get to that. Parole in Illinois was abolished in 1978. And so right now there are about 40, I think it's 40, it might be a little bit more, between 40 and 70, but I think it's 40 remaining individuals in the state of Illinois who have the pre-1978 parole regime, where they get to go before a parole board every year or 2, 3 years, make their case that they're rehabilitated and be considered for release. This is what most states offer, and it's what many of us just assume is there. And it's not there in Illinois anymore, unless you were convicted before 1978. A big chunk of Restore Justice's work in the first 5 years of our existence was trying to bring back some parole opportunities. We would love to bring back parole for everybody. Politically, that has not been palatable. We've not been able to make, basically get enough votes on any bill that would provide comprehensive parole. So we thought, let's get it in place. Let's see if we can start chipping away at the block. So we supported Representative Barbara Flynn Curry, Leader Curry at the time, and now Senate President Don Harmon in a campaign that lasted from 2012 through 2018 to bring back some type of parole. And the parole that was restored was only for people under the age of 21, that 21 age of maturity line again. And it is not every year, every 2 or 3 years, but it's really 2 to 3 bites at the apple in the lifetime of the person who can come before the parole board. And that is what we were able to do. It's not retroactive, so it does not help us solve the really terrible problem of the fact that many, many people who were sentenced during the worst years of the ramp up in sentencing can't take advantage of this mechanism right now, but we're working on it.
Okay, so define it for our viewers. What are sentencing credits and how did that change in this bill?
Oh boy. So sentencing credits are really complicated. So I'm going to do my best to distill it. So in the olden days, in the days of yore in Illinois before 1998, if you were convicted of anything, you got to earn good time off for good behavior. For many people, for most people, it was called day for day. So you got, basically, if you got an 80-year sentence, if you were good for 40 years, you get 40 years off and you go home after 40 years. Some offenses, it was a higher percentage. You had to do 75, 85. I'm not sure if that's accurate, actually. I need to double check that one. My history might be off. But that law that was passed in 1995 that actually was finally implemented in 1998 was the single largest driver of extreme prison terms in Illinois, because what it did was it took, if the base sentence for one homicide is 20 years, and with a gun you add 25, so it's 45 years. You have people who were serving 22 and a half years for something who are now serving the full 45. And it's that like that. And I think there was a feeling at the time that in the 90s that judges would sort of lower the ranges or that they would go to the bottom end of the range. Well, they didn't. So time literally just exponentially increased. So what earned sentencing credits are now, as changes have been made to the law over the years, are less about automatic time off for good behavior. Not automatics, quasi-automatic. And it's more about credit for courses taken. So getting a GED comes with a certain number of days off, depending on when you were sentenced. So again, many of these laws are not retroactive. So there are more opportunities available to people sentenced before 1998 than there are to people sentenced after 1998. This particular statute is retroactive. So it does, which is a real groundbreaking facet of this piece of the law. And the champions behind this were the John Howard Association and the Alliance for Safety and Justice. Those are two organizations that I would recommend sort of following for those of you who are into this stuff. We didn't work on this provision, but the thing I like best about this provision, because my population, the people I care about, kind of really advocating for in prison, are people who are serving more than 20 years. So in this provision, in the statute, they, I think based on their learnings from COVID in many ways, the director has always had the ability to offer 180 days of good time off, early release, to people who are engaged in certain courses or for whatever reason are eligible, close to their out date and eligible for this good time. This new statute creates a tier of being able to earn 365 days if you have more than a 5-year sentence. And during COVID, what we found was it's really easy to release people who are really close to their out date if they've got a 2-year sentence and they're 6 months out. But if you've got a 27-year sentence and you're 1 year out, you're out of luck. So this was a way to sort of, I think, create more options for the director and the department in their ability to do early release.